Hello everybody, welcome back to Stationeers. So we are now on episode 5 of our introduction to IC. There's a couple more episodes I want to do before we start just going through a couple of examples of where you would use some of the skills that you've hopefully picked up during this playlist. So just to recap, episode 1, load and save, we've covered that, done. Episode 2, load batch and save batch, again, done. Episode 3, yields and sleeps, we did. And episode 4, we did some basic maths. Episode 5 is going to be about comparisons and checking that different values are either greater than, less than, equal to something else. As time goes on, you'll understand why this is important, but we're going to kind of just go into, again, absolute basics, show you a couple of functions, show you how they work, kind of go from there. So what I've got over here, the usual setup, we've got our computer, our power, and our IC. Again, make sure your power is set up. Obviously, everything is working as expected. And I've got 3 LEDs, and we're just going to be kind of showing you some numbers and showing you kind of, well, trying to visualize what is going to be happening here. I've also got a couple of memory units that we'll be using just for the sake of just testing, really. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a number on one memory, a number on a second memory, and then we're going to compare these using a few different logical functions, and we'll get a result of either a 0 or 1. So let's just jump in and let's start, because you kind of understand the basics of this. And before we do anything, let's set up our pins. So we know that we're going to have, and I've labeled these, so we've got LED A, B, and result, and we've got memory A and B. So I'm going to put my LEDs onto pin 0, 1, and 2. LED result, LED B, LED A, and then we're going to have memory A and memory B. Okay, so we'll probably forget that, but it's fine. We've got the pin set up anyway. In here, I've just kind of left myself some notes. These are kind of what we're going to cover today. They're all pretty similar, but slightly different. And as time goes on, we'll go through again like why you would use these. But to start with, as we always do, we're going to alias our pins. So we're going to alias LED A to D0, alias LED B to D1, alias, let me move that out of the way, LED result to D2. We're then going to alias memory A to D3, alias, no capitals, memory B to D4. Right, we've got our devices, we're set. We're then going to do our loop, so we're going to create the label, stick in the yield, and then jump to start, and this is where our code's going to be. So all we're going to do is we're going to run through each of these functions and just show you how it works. Dead easy. And this is basically the function, as you see here, is how you will lay it out in your code. So we're going to just do start to bottom. They're in no particular order. They're just the order that I wrote them in. The first one is going to be set equal. So basically, this one is used to check if something is equal to something. Hence the set and then EQ for equal. So what we're first going to do is we're going to load from our memories. So we're going to load into R0 for memory A. And remember, if you don't know what you're loading, search for the device in your Stationpedia, and you've got all your logic types here. Now from the memory, you're only really going to worry about loading the setting. I've never really had to use the rest of this. So if we go setting. Okay, and just so we've got it visibly, we're going to save to the LED A the setting of R0. Again, check the LED for what you're setting, but we know that the setting is going to display on the console because we've used it on the other episodes. We're then going to basically copy and paste this code. So we'll just copy and copy, and we will just change these A's to B's because we've aliased these devices. And we're also reusing the register because that's okay. At this point, we're finished with it. So we can override it using the load function, and we don't have to use R1. I mean, I could do that if I wanted to. I could put R1 here and job done, but if you don't need to keep a register, override it. Save yourself some work later. So for now, let's just confirm and exit this. I'm going to export the code, turn this on, and we've got no errors because we already set our pins, so we're good to go. So to test this is working, get your screwdriver and just set your memory. Now you can see that we've got a slight problem there because we have two consoles changing when we change that first memory. So what has happened there? Good question. Load into from memory A, save to LED A. I have probably got... That is very interesting, actually. LED A, LED B, LED result, memory A. Oh, there's the problem. So it's looking for... Right, so D4 is our issue. There we go. So remember that when you're looking at the pin, the green is the device that you're setting it to. The yellow is the device it's looking for. If you're not careful of that, then you'll potentially get this issue. So let's turn this back on. Let's try that again. There we go, look. So as I change this memory, we're getting it on the LED. So I can keep changing this, or we could give it 10. There we go, we've got 11. And then we can make this one also a positive. There we go. All right, dead easy. You've done that in episode 1, loading and saving. That's all we're doing there. Now what I want to do is I want to start doing my comparisons on these two. So what we're going to do, excuse me, is we're going to change the register here to R1. Now, obviously, I did just say you can reuse, and you can. But if you're planning on reusing a register, then you would obviously not want to override it. So in this instance, we're going to load into R0, save the value of R0, but at this point, we still have R0. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go through our different functions, and the first one is the set equal. So if I do seq, and if you hover over it, it'll tell you register is 1 if A equals B, otherwise 0. Now, if you're looking at that first time, you might be a little bit like, what the hell is it talking about? When you're writing the function, you've got A in brackets and B in brackets. And this is saying if A equals B. So if the value here in A is equal to the value here, then this register will become a 1. Otherwise, it will be 0. So remember, as with most functions, your first register is where you're storing the value. So for now, I'm going to do this into R2. That way we still have the R0 and R1 up here. So whatever this comes to is going to be into R2. The next step is, what are we checking? So what is A going to be? Now this can be a number, or this can be a register. So I'm going to put R0 and R1. So what we're doing, if R0 equals R1, then R2 will become a 1. Else, it will be 0. Let's confirm this. And what we'll also need to do is we'll need to save that to our LED result. So we've got like we can visibly see it. So if we save to the LED result the setting of R2, confirm, export. So it might not look like it's doing anything because we've still got a 0. But that's because that function is checking if these two are the same. So it's checking if this memory is, well, the value we loaded from the memory is equal to the value of this memory. Obviously, we've got 3 and 11, not the same. So what happens if we bring this one down to 3? So we've got a 4, they're not the same. But we go for a 3, we've now got a 1. Because this is equal to this. If I go up again, no longer is it the same. So this is something that you can use because you can then write that 1 or that 0, because this, and this is where it can get a bit confusing. This 1, you can use it as a value, but it's actually a Boolean. 1 for true, 0 for false. Or 1 for on, 0 for off. 1 for open, 0 for closed. So that is where you can use this 1. So it could be, for example, let's go crazy. Let's get a door. We do like our doors. And let's stick a door over here, shall we? And we'll get you fixed and then get some cable. And what we'll do is let's just get this guy all cabled in. And alright, we've got a door that opens and closes. Well, hey, check us out. What we can do is if we put the door on D5, we'll turn that code off for now. Whatever this result is, I want to save that to the door open. So I can just save to the door the open as R2. Don't forget, we haven't got the door alias, so it doesn't know what door is, which is why it's in red. So we can alias the door to D5. Okay? Dead easy. If we export that, now what should happen is if I try and open this door, nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? Well, I haven't turned the IC on. Turn the IC on. So 3 equals 3. So we get a 1. A 1 means open. And if you're not sure about that, if you look at the door, find the door that we've got, which is the composite door. And down here, there is an open setting, read and write. So we can write to this. 1 if device is open, otherwise 0. So we can write a 1 or a 0 to this door, and it will basically, well, open and close. In theory, if I try and close this, it opens again. The reason it's opening again is because that code is on a loop. So it's constantly running, it's constantly writing to this door. Right, no matter how many times I press it, that door's going to open. If I get my screwdriver, and set, that is not a screwdriver, and set this to another number, my door closes. Because these two are not the same. If I try and open the door, it's now going to keep closing. Now, obviously, you wouldn't just have memories. You could read, for example, you could read the temperature. And if the temperature is not equal to what you want it to be equal, then do something. It could be a light, it could be a door, it could be an alarm, whatever. The point I'm trying to get to you is we're doing a check. That check results in a number, either 1 or 0, which can then be used to control devices. So that's the set equal. We're obviously checking that this number is equal to this number. The next one on our list is set equal to 0. So this basically does the opposite to this one. So this is checking that two numbers equal the same. This is checking that a number equals 0. Now the layout is a little bit different, so I'm going to delete this line. And we're going to do SEQZ. Now if you hover over it, the register is 1 if A equals 0. You'll notice there is no B. Alright, all it wants is one register or one value. So if we load this into R2, and obviously here we've got an issue where we've obviously got two numbers here, so ignore this for now. Basically what we're going to do is we'll do R1. So we are checking if R1 is 0, then R2 is true, because it's yes, that is 0. We are looking for a 0 value. If it's 0, then I'm happy, true, positive, open, whatever. So let's confirm, export, the door closes. The door closes because memory 2, LEB2, which is what we're checking, is currently not a 0. If I reduce this the other way, 2, still closed, 1, still closed, 0, there we go. You can see there, we've now got a 1. This is 0. Oh, we're checking, is this equal to 0? Yes. Okay. Yes is 1. So it can be a little bit confusing if you're not doing logic, because it's a bit like, well, hang on a second, I don't understand. That's 0, why is that not 0? But no, we're checking, we want 0. So if we've got 0, we're happy with that, and we'll go, yep, fine, easy peasy. But that's the SEQZ. Next one, SGT. So this stands for set greater than or save greater than or whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But just I said I do it as set greater than. So again, if you look at the function, if A is greater than B, then the register equals 1, otherwise 0. So again, we're going to load into R2. and we're checking if A is greater than B. So if we do our R0 and R1 again, we are basically saying if memory A is greater than memory B, then give me a 1. So say yes or true. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for something that is, we're looking for memory A to be greater than memory B. But export, door remains open. Why? Because this memory A is showing a setting of 3, whereas this one is a setting of 0. This is greater than. Now, if I get my screwdriver and we hook this up a little bit. So if I go to 2, obviously we're still greater than. If I go to 3, it's not greater than. It's equal to. And equal to is not the same as greater than. It probably sounds stupid that I'm saying it, and if I'm coming across as condescending, I'm sorry. But there are small kind of differences between these functions depending on what it is you're doing, and it matters. And believe me, when you're writing a code for the first time, chances are you'll probably end up using the wrong one and be wondering why isn't that quite working. So it's always worth getting some LEDs or getting some memories or whatever and just looking at the values that you're working with. But as you can see here, 3 is not greater than 3, so we get a 0. If I up this to 2, or down it to 2, obviously 3 is now greater than 2, so we get a 1. If I bring this one up, obviously, we're still a 1 and we'll be on 1 forever. But if I bring this down to a 1, you can now see that it's fingered, and back up to a 2, and they're still not greater than. So, you know, I think it's pretty straightforward. Let me know if it's not. You can then do set greater or equal to 0. And set equal, well, sorry, I missed set equal. So set greater or equal to is, so as you can see here, 2 and 2 is coming to a 0 because this is not greater than this. However, if you do SGE, you're then checking if it's greater than or equal to. Don't know why I said or like that, but there you go. So SGE, if A is greater than or equal to B, then it'll be a 1, else a 0. So that door is closed. Export the code, door is now open because 2 is equal to 2. If we make this one bigger, we're still greater than. Make it bigger again, we're still greater than. Let's bring this one up. We've got a 4, 4, still open because it's greater than or equal to. Bring this one up, all of a sudden we got a 0. Our door is closed. Okay? And I'll just cover the rest of them, but you kind of get my drift as to what we're doing. We're checking things here. So the next one is set greater or equal to 0. So this one is setting greater or equal to. So this is like 2 numbers that don't have to be a 0. But SGE said set greater or equal to 0. You don't need this many values. You just put in your register that the value is going into, and then you're just checking if A is greater or equal to 0. So if we go R1, export the code. So currently we've got a 4. I can't remember which one we were doing. Oh, we're doing memory B. So currently we've got a 5. Now any number greater or equal to a 0 will result in a 1. So I go as far as 0, still get a 1. Go to -1, my door's closed. Next, we're into the set less than. So basically the opposite of the set greater than. So if we do set less than into R2, and then if R0 is less than R1. So if A is less than B, register equals 1. So if R0 is less than R1, then this becomes a 1. Export the code. You see at the moment, 4 is not less than -1. Get the screwdriver, and let's crank this up some. Wrong one. So you can see at the moment, if I go to 5, 5, it's still not a thing. If I go to 6, there we go. 5 is less than 6, so we get a 1. And then obviously you've got the same thing. You've got less than or equal to. So we can do SLE. So R2 is a 1 if R0 is less than or equal to that. So the difference with this one is it will now work if both of these are the same. You can see 6, 6. But if I go for 7, 6, get a 0. And we've got, what, one more? Set less than or equal to 0. You know where this is going. Set less than or equal to 0 into R2, R1. Basically, if A is less than or equal to 0, then R2 will become a 1. So confirm, export. So at the moment, we're obviously doing on this one. So we're looking for a value less than or equal to 0. So a 1 is still a 0. Change to a 0, there's our 1. And any number below 0 will also equate to a 1. That's basically that's kind of like checking numbers. And remember, like at the moment we're doing registers, but in here, if I wanted to, I could put numbers. So well, that wouldn't be, but that would be R2, and then I could put a 5. Is 5 less than or equal to 0? No. R2 would be a 0. Is -6 less than or equal to 0? Yes. R2 would be a 1. If I put a 0, is 0 less than or equal to 0? Yes, that would be a 1. Okay. This will come in handy later when, like I said, you will check filter quantities, you will check atmospheric pressure and temperature, you'll check the statuses of doors, for God's sake. Anything you can think of, excuse me, you're probably going to use these checks. There's 2 more that I want to go through that I haven't wrote up here, but we're going to do and. And kind of works well with these checks as well. So what an and does, and I'm going to get rid of this line for now and just give myself some space. So and basically combines two Boolean values. So for example, into R2, I'm going to check R1 and R0. Okay. Now, if I export that code, we currently got a 2, right? Now, I'm going to just show you, you don't really want to do it the way I've just done it here. So if I go for a -1 and a 7, we get a 7, which is a bit weird. If I bring this down, you can see what it's doing is it's basically mirroring, I think it mirrors the highest value, or is that just pulling the first value? No, it's confusing, but basically what's happening here, and expects Boolean. Now we're providing it values. So in theory, like, I know this doesn't make sense, but if I did a 1 and a 1, I should get a 1. Okay? If I set that to a 0, I get a 0. Set that to a 0, get a 0. Set that to a 1, get a 0. Set that to a 1, get a 1. It's looking for 2 true values, and then it will output a 1. Now, any other number starts getting a bit confusing. You can see there it doesn't really make much sense. It's kind of giving me a 1 for every odd number. Doesn't really make much sense. So to fix that issue, combine your and with set greater than or equal to. So for example, we can check set less than into R0. Into R2, where R0 is less than 5. Okay, so we're checking the first memory, is that less than 5? Then what we're going to do is set less than into R3, where R1 is less than 5. And then we're going to and into R4, and this might be going over your head, but bear with me. Not that. Okay, so what we're doing here is first we're checking, so we're loading into R2 whether R0 is less than 5. Now R0 is our setting of our memory. If that's less than 5, then as I've just shown you, you'll get a 1. And then here, same thing. We're saving into R3 whether R1 is less than 5. And then down here, we are combining R2 and R3 together into the AND function. So if R2 and R3 are 1, we'll get a 1. Now, I'm realizing that as I talk, I'm probably confusing you, but let's see what happens. So what you'll see at the moment is I have a memory on 1, a memory on 1. And don't forget, we're checking that both of these memories are less than 5. So in theory, if I tick this all the way up, we get a 4 and a 1, we still got a 1. If I put this one all the way up to 4, we get a 1. If I put this one up to 5, that doesn't make sense, because I said set less than 5. Did I export this code? Oh, you fool, because I haven't changed down here, look, because now we're doing AND into R4. This should be our result as R4. Yeah, because these are checked in R2 and R3, and then these two are being combined into the AND function. So let me export that. There we go, that's doing what I want it to do. So basically, because the AND wants everything, so this needs to be true and this needs to be true. If anything is false, it's false. If everything is false, it's false. Only if everything is true, it will output to be a true. So if we do a 5 and a 5, it's false. Obviously, I can make both of these go up as high as I want to. It's still a false. Until they both are less than 5, then we won't get the true. And there you go. Door is open, we got the 1. And any number I set these to below 5 is fine, because it is always true. Until it hits a number greater than 5. At which point, nah, not happening. That's how the AND works. And that can kind of like be, for example, oh, if this switch is open and this switch is open, or sorry, if this switch is clicked and this switch is clicked, do something. So you could go, if the temperature is below 25 and the pressure is less than, I don't know, 60 kPa, then do something. All right. The idea is you would check real world things, really, and then output something. And we'll be doing examples later. So if this doesn't make sense right now, hopefully it will at a later point. But right now, just understand that if you're using AND, you're basically checking two values and making sure that they are true. So the AND isn't like making this the number. That needs to be captured elsewhere. In here, if I wanted to, I could do 1 and 1. Okay? Because a 1 is read as a true value. So actually, if I export that code, obviously my door stays open. If I close it, it opened again. If I turn one of these to 0, so I've got a true and a false, and export, it should close. And I can't keep it open. Alright, so remember, you can have a number that is a value, but a 1 and a 0 can also be interpreted as a true or false. That's the AND function. The last one that I want to go through is OR. And, well, not AND, OR. Very close to the AND function, we are ORing into R4, and we're going to do the same, R2 and R3. The difference with the OR is it's just looking for a true anywhere. Now, it doesn't care which is true. It's either this or this should be true. So, remember, we're checking that they are less than 5. So at the moment, this is less than 5 and this is less than 5. It doesn't care how many, as long as at least one is true, then we get a true. So with this one, if I bring this number up to a 5 or 6, this isn't less than 5, but this one is. So this is still true. Okay, it doesn't care, only one of them. If I up this number to a 5, now we've got a 0 because none of them are true. If I bring this one down, that one is true. So like I said, it doesn't care. I can have, if I wanted to, I could keep combining multiple ORs and I could have a gazillion LEDs, obviously within region. If you've got, I don't know, say you've got 20 LEDs. If 19 of them are false, or only one of them is true, the OR function will spit out a true. Because only one parameter has to be true. And that's the difference between AND. So AND wants this and this to be true, or wants this or this to be true. And again, like I said, this will probably make more sense when we start to practice it. easiest way to understand this is just to have a go. There's no point in me splitting this between multiple episodes because these literally are all pretty much the same. They all work in the same way. It's just different checks. But yeah, like we've covered, set equal to is something equal to something. Set equal to 0 is something equal to 0. Set greater than is something greater than something. Something greater or equal to something, greater or equal to 0. Less than or equal to something, less than or equal to 0. Yeah, that's it really. There is nothing else there really to explain to you. The door is an example. Anything that can take a 0 or a 1 can obviously take this as it is, raw. It could be that you do additional checks. Once you've done this, then you could also combine this into something else. So it might be that I want this memory to be something, this memory to be something. If both of those are correct, then I need to check that this is something and something else is also true. This can be as big, as complex, or as basic as you want it to be. It's a bit difficult not giving you as an example, hence why we've got the door. But I promise when we do an example, it will make a lot more sense. So with this one, I would say go and have a play with the functions yourself. Have a play with some of the devices in game and see if you can figure out a good way of doing it. One example would be like, for example, if we get the tablet, so obviously we've got our silo here. If I turn this on, we've got a 1. If I turn it off, I've got a 0. That is just a true or false. That is just a yes or no, or an open or close, an on or off, whatever you want to call it. So you could replace the memory with a silo. And then you could check, okay, if this silo is on and something else is doing something, then do something, or whatever. Like you could do set equal to 0. Like, so basically that would be if this is off. SEQZ, set equal to 0. This is 0, I get a 1, go and do something else somewhere else. I have a feeling this one hasn't been very clear, and I apologize for that. But we are getting into parts of the IC now that is going to be potentially a little bit more confusing to people who haven't really played with it. My advice, just get in and have a go. Have a play with some consoles, with some memories. Just try and get the math to work. Make sure you're getting a 1 where you should do. And then just practice writing that value to something. And as time goes on, you'll adapt your code and it'll get more and more complex and do more clever things. So I only have one more of these videos to come. And once we've covered that, we will then be building examples of stuff rather than kind of going through what this function does, this function does, this function does. Let's take all of our knowledge together and let's start building a multitude of like little IC setups, little things that you might want around your base, but practice makes perfect, and some of them will be really basic. So we're going to start with automating something that going on and off to working on like things, custom airlocks. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. Custom airlocks, get the Larry working. We could do weather stations, we can automate lights, we can get fridges turned on and off. We're going to go through all these examples and more. So hopefully that was of some help. If you feel like telling me it wasn't, I get it. Feel free to leave me a note in the comments and I can either try again or I'll just leave it be. Either way, let me know. But hopefully this is of some help. So until next time, take care. And I will see you then. Bye.